Have you ever worked so hard to build the life that you prayed for, only to wake up one day and ask yourself, was all of this worth it? Because that's exactly where I found myself. From the outside, everyone thought I had made it, that the business was growing and revenue was increasing. My sisters and I were building something that we had dreamed of, that we had really dreamed about for years. Clients were coming in, people would congratulate us and say, wow, you guys grew so fast. I love what you guys are doing. They'd say things like, you're killing it. Your business is doing amazing. I wish I had what you have. And every time someone said that, I smiled because that's what I thought I was supposed to do. But behind closed doors, my life was falling apart. Before we dive in, if this is your first time here, welcome. I'm Suhey Piedra, entrepreneur, mentor, and the co-founder of Prominence Business. For more than 23 years, I've helped entrepreneurs build profitable businesses and create wealth through tax strategy. But somewhere along that journey, I realized something. Most entrepreneurs don't fail because they don't understand money. Sometimes that's what they think, but they actually struggle because no one prepares them for what success does to you. The pressure, the loneliness, the identity shifts, the strain it can put on your marriage, on your family, and even on your health. That's why I created this podcast, because I believe we all can build an incredible business without losing ourselves in the process. So if you're an entrepreneur who's trying to grow your business while still protecting your relationships, your health, and who you really are, you're in the right place. See, in all this story, as I mentioned that others were congratulating us from the success that we were building. From the outside, everything looked great. But on the personal side, my marriage was struggling. I was emotionally exhausted. I was constantly trying to prove that all of the sacrifice was worth it. Like so many entrepreneurs, I found myself trying to explain my dream to someone who simply couldn't see it the way I did. Maybe you've been there. Maybe you're married to somebody who is a W-2 employee and does not have the entrepreneur heart. Maybe you're just working all day. Then you leave work to attend networking events. You answer client calls after dinner. You stay up late because there are proposals to send, fires to put out. And then your spouse asks, why can't this wait until tomorrow? Why do you have to have your phone at the dinner table? And in your mind, you think, because if I don't, who will? So the arguments begin. The misunderstandings grow. One person feels unseen because they're carrying the business, and the other person may feel unseen because they're carrying the family. See, neither person is wrong. They're simply speaking a different language. I didn't know that then, though. I thought my business life and my personal life were completely separate. In fact, when I hired my very first business coach, I hired them because I wanted to grow my business. I wanted more sales, better systems, more clients, more revenue. That's what I was chasing. Personal development, it wasn't even in my radar. I didn't even know what that was. Then one day, pretty early on in our coaching relationship, she said something that honestly irritated me. She looked at me and said, "Your personal life is a reflection of your business, and your business is a reflection of your personal life." And I immediately argued. I remember thinking, no, that can't be. My business is doing great. My business is my safe place. I think my marriage is the problem. There were two completely different worlds, or at least that's what I believed. As the months went by and I allowed myself to become coachable, something started happening. I began noticing patterns that I didn't even know existed. But I realized that I had no boundaries at home, and I definitely had no boundaries at work. I was constantly rescuing people. I was constantly struggling to say no. I wanted everyone to be happy. I wanted all my clients to approve of me. I wanted everyone to feel taken care of, whether it was at home or in the business, my clients, my staff, my team. Clients would text me on weekends, and I just answered. I simply didn't even think twice about it. Clients would email me late at night and close to the deadline, right? It's one of those things. I work in taxes. We all have the same deadline. And I would get these emails late at night, and I would make their procrastination my problem. So I'd respond. I wore the being available 24/7 like it was a badge of honor. But it really wasn't. It was not. It wasn't leadership. It was people pleasing. And the more I looked inward, the more I realized something that was hard to admit. I wasn't building my business from confidence. I was building it from fear. Fear that if I slowed down, everything would fall apart. Fear that if I didn't control everything, it just wouldn't get done, that it wouldn't get done correctly. Fear that if I wasn't consistently producing, I somehow had less value. Eventually, my marriage reached a breaking point. After years of trying, we made the incredibly difficult decision to divorce. And honestly, I thought that was going to solve everything. Being free of explaining myself, I just convinced myself that life would finally be peaceful, that I wouldn't have no more arguing, no more trying to explain why I work so much, no more tension. I truly believed now I can focus on my business. Yeah. But life has a way of waking us all up. So just 2 weeks after our divorce was finalized, my ex-husband passed away. Yeah. He had a sudden death. And nothing prepares you for something like that. Nothing. The guilt I felt, the questions I had, the grief I had to deal with, the thoughts that keep replaying in my mind. Could I have done something differently? Could I have prevented this? Did I miss something? And because I had spent my entire life believing that being strong meant not feeling, I did what I had always done. I just kept busy. I went back to work. I told everyone I was okay. My sisters would ask, slow down. They would just ask you, take a break, stop, pause. People around me would tell me to take care of myself. But honestly, I just didn't know how. I had become so good at taking care of everyone else that I had completely forgotten how to take care of myself. So again, life knows how to wake us up sometimes. And 9 months later, my body made the decision for me. One day, I thought I was having a heart attack. I was here alone in the office. My sisters were in the Las Vegas office, and I was alone. And I'm working hard, close to a deadline. I'll never forget. It's close to the corporate September 15th deadline, right? Saying yes to everybody. I can help you. I can finish it. I can get it all done by the deadline. And then I started to feel like my heart was just racing and I couldn't get it to stop. I couldn't get it to slow down. I tried not to panic, but I was alone and I didn't know what to do. And as soon as my vision started to get blurry, that's when I was like, I have to call 911. So the paramedics arrived. My heart rate was over 240 beats per minute. They thought I was having a heart attack. They had to stabilize me. They restarted my heart. It was terrifying. I was rushed to the emergency room, and just to be told that all my tests came back normal, that I needed to go see a cardiologist. Well, it's a heart issue. I did not have time to waste time. So I met with the cardiologist. They ran every test imaginable. I didn't even want to wait for the insurance. I'm like, I'll pay for it cash. And then they looked at me and said, your heart is healthy. Everything came back normal. There's a little valve in your heart that got stuck. It may happen every now and then, but just cough, jump, you'll be fine. But I knew something happened, and I just felt like there was more. I just couldn't tell what it was. So looking back now, I believe that my body was carrying everything my heart refused to acknowledge. Years of grief, all the pressure, all the stress, all the years of believing that slowing down just meant failure. That experience became the beginning of my healing journey. And not because I suddenly had all of the answers, but because for the very first time, I was willing to ask different questions. Instead of asking, how do I grow my business? I started to ask, who am I becoming while building it? That question changed my life. I started doing inner work. I really started to listen to the coaches that I had by my side. Instead of just grabbing what I thought I wanted or I thought I needed, it was about really listening. I went to therapy. I found a great therapist that was an entrepreneur, heart successful, understood my business drive, but also understood that I had to take care of what was going on internally. I worked with mentors that looked at things a little bit different than just the business, than just what I was performing in numbers. So I really started to explore healing in ways that I never imagined. I started learning about emotional health, boundaries, my identity, my communication skills, and a big one, forgiveness. And something incredible began to happen. My self-worth started to change. So as I began to heal, my business also began to heal. And that completely shocked me because I began attracting different types of clients. Clients who respected my time, clients who valued my expertise, clients who didn't question every move, but really just wanted to know more about how they can create the changes themselves. So I didn't have to be rescuing them every time. Clients who understood that strategy has a value. So I started to work smarter and not necessarily harder. I started working fewer hours. And by fewer hours, don't get me wrong, it doesn't mean that I work, 15, 20 hours. It really just means that I started to work fewer hours and leaving and getting home at 5 or closing down at 5, not attending every single networking event, not feeling that I needed to help every single client. There's clients that are just not meant for me, and that's totally fine. But the really cool thing is that by doing that, I also started to make more money. Think about that for a second. For years, I believed success required working harder. But healing taught me something different. Success isn't about working harder. It's about becoming healthier. A healthier leader, because a healthier leader makes healthier decisions, and healthier decisions create healthier businesses. Then something else happened that completely changed how I led my business, my life. When I stepped away after my ex-husband passed away, my team had no choice but to step in. For years, I believed I had to control everything, that everything had to be done by me. Why? Because, we know everything. Everything we do is always so much better, right? That control. I had to review everything, approve everything, because I convinced myself that no one could do it like I could. Sound familiar? How many entrepreneurs are literally drowning in their work because nobody can do it better? Well, let me tell you that when I stepped out, my team started creating systems. They documented things that I never was documenting. So procedures started to get documented. SOPs started to be built. They improved workflows. They solved problems without me. And you know what happened? The business didn't fall apart. It actually became stronger. That was one of the hardest lessons for me. Control was not protecting my business. Control was actually limiting it. I wasn't creating leaders in my team. I was again doing what I always did, which was create dependence. The moment that I learned to let go, my team grew and the business grew. Honestly, I also grew. Today, at Prominence Business, the business runs smoother than it ever has. And not because I do everything, but because finally I stopped believing that I had to do it all. And then another transformation also happened. My client meetings started changing. People would come in wanting to talk about taxes, and we would review their financial statements. We'd discuss deductions, their tax returns, and all that good stuff. But somehow, the conversations always became something deeper. They'd tell me they were exhausted. They'd tell me their marriage was struggling. They'd tell me that they felt guilty for working so much. And honestly, I started to see it too in them. They would tell me they were making more money than ever, but somehow they just weren't happier. I started to notice something. The numbers weren't the biggest problem. It was the person that was carrying the numbers that was the problem. I saw myself sitting across from myself. It was like staring at a mirror with a different face, a different business, maybe even a different industries, right? But the same pain. And that's when I realized my calling had expanded. I still love taxes and I will always do them. I still love strategy and I will always do it. I still love helping entrepreneurs legally keep more of what they earn. And that's what Prominence Business stands for. That will always be a part of who I am. But I also realized that entrepreneur, a place, a space where we can talk about everything that comes before the numbers. Because no one talks about how lonely this journey can feel. No one talks about the pressure of carrying payroll, the pressure of making decisions that affects other families, the guilt of missing dinners, the guilt of checking emails during your child's soccer game. Sound familiar? The fear that if you stop, everything you've built will disappear. If that's where you are today, I want you to hear me. You are not alone. And you don't have to choose between being successful or building a successful business and having a meaningful life. Let's start having better conversations with our spouses instead of expecting them to just simply understand our dreams. Invite them into them. Share your vision. Show them the goals and the progress. Explain what you're building. Celebrate the milestones together. Let them see the progress so that they understand why you're making certain sacrifices. And do the same with your children. Don't just tell them you're working late. Tell them why. Teach them what you're building. Help them become part of the dream instead of feeling left behind by it, or that you're choosing your business over them. And let's also start having better conversations with ourselves. Slow down. Rest isn't laziness. Delegation isn't a weakness. Having boundaries is not being selfish. Working smarter doesn't mean you're less ambitious. It simply means you've matured as a leader. Today, I believe something with every part of my heart. The quality of your business will never, ever exceed the quality of the person leading it. When you heal, your leadership changes. And when your leadership starts to change, your business changes. And when your business changes, your relationships begin to change. Everything is connected. And I know it's hard to believe, but take my story, my journey, and the story and journey of many other entrepreneurs who have sat across from me as proof that everything is connected. And when you begin to change, everything around you changes for the better. If this conversation encouraged you, challenged you, or reminded you that you're not alone, I have one favor to ask. Follow the podcast and share this episode with another entrepreneur who needs to hear it. You never know whose life could change because you hit share. And also, if today's conversation just resonated with you, with your journey, I'd love to hear your story. One of the biggest reasons I started Rooted in Worth is because I believe healing happens when we realize that we're not walking this road alone. Reach out to me, send me a message, share your story, and let your story be heard, because you just never know. Your story may become the encouragement that someone else has been praying for. And if today's episode spoke to you and you're ready to begin doing this work for yourself, I'd love to invite you to my free masterclass. Together, we'll start building a business that grows from a place of purpose, peace, and identity, not pressure. And it's never too late to start. So, until next time, remember this: your worth was never meant to come from what you produce. It's something you've carried with you all along. So, I'll see you on the next episode.